Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Courtney Ryan, and today we're going to be reacting to a TikTok video basically saying that most women who claim to be high value are not. And I know this high value topic is a bit controversial, it's a bit nuanced and tricky, and we're going to get into all of that. I'm going to cover some things after we watch this video together just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So let's get started. Okay, it says, it's just like a girl and a sound, and then it's text on the screen, so I'm going to read it to you guys so that you can read it because sometimes it's so tiny. It says, the truth is that most women who claim to be high value are not. You have nothing to offer apart from the coochie, toxicity, and attitude. You cannot heal, you cannot cook, you can't clean, you're not nurturing, you're not intelligent, you're not creative, not patient, and neither soft. You're not loyal, not empathetic, you hate kids, and your body count looks like your phone number. Nothing about that is feminine or high value. So, starting off with a bang, with that being said, I also want to say that normally if people have to claim that they are something, they have to shout from the rooftops that they are something, well, I am high value, well, I am an alpha male. Usually they're not. A person who talks about how funny they are all the time probably isn't actually funny. A guy who talks about being an alpha male probably isn't an alpha male. The same here goes for a woman or a person who claims that they're so high value. When you are something, you don't feel the need to like prove it or shout it or say it to everyone. You just are that thing, right? And it doesn't need any explanation. Normally, if you're claiming that you're so high value, normally you're not. But with that being said, I think something is high value because of the demand for it, right? To a lot of people, a Rolex is high value because of the demand on the market for it. They're hard to get, or an AP, or whatever watch you want to talk about. There are so many different things or, industries that you could kind of go into to further explain what high value is. I do think it's a little bit more of a gray area when we're talking about people, because we're all obviously different. We're not all the same. We all don't want the same things. So what might be high value to one person might not be high value to another person. So it's kind of all about down to the individual. So I definitely think that that's important to note before I get started here. I also think that there's a difference often between what men consider high value and what women consider high value. So in dating specifically is where people typically deem themselves as high value or not, a high value man, a high value woman, and that's kind of decided by the opposite sex. So again, I do think that there's often a difference between what men consider a high value woman to be and then what women consider a high value man to be. I also think that being desired and being valued are two totally different things. So I was going to say, being high value is all about the demand and the desire for it. But that's not necessarily true, because I think a lot of guys would sleep with any girl, but they wouldn't marry any girl, right? So they would marry the girl that they think is high value, and she would have those traits that he's looking for, and the traits that a man is looking for in a woman for someone just to have fun with or hook up with might be very different than the woman that he chooses to marry. And I think also the same goes for women. I'm not saying that to be sexist or to, paint women in a certain light, but I think that we all kind of do this with the value that we want something to bring to us, whether it be short term or long term. When a woman is young, she might date a bunch of really attractive guys who aren't making that much money, but when she gets a little bit older, she might decide, you know what, I care a little bit more about how much money he's making over how attractive he is, because I'm looking at my life long term here, and I want a man who is able to financially support me and my family. So women do this too. It is not just something that men do. We all have our preferences. I'm not going to go too far into this because it's just a wormhole, so I digress. But just in general here, I think, entitlement is not high value. Toxicity and chaos are not high value. A lack of respect is not high value. Putting in no effort to your health and well-being or the way that you look is not high value. Not taking care of yourself is not high value. And I think that collectively, most people would agree about that. Again, it comes down to the value that you're looking for someone to bring into your life. But a high value individual, when you're thinking about, dating, the dating market, would add value to your life somehow. So a lot of women who I see online claiming to be high value or talking about how they're like a high value boss babe, independent, don't need a man, they're women who do really well financially. And sadly, that's just not really something that men care about when they're looking for a woman. I think a man would date a woman that worked at Cracker Barrel if she was kind and supportive and encouraging and a good person and took care of herself and was a great girl. Like, I don't think that men care about that. Actually, I know from interacting with all of you in my comment section that men just really don't care about that as much, especially if they're doing well off for themselves. They value other things in women. So women might value a man making a lot of money. Like, that would be a high value man to a woman, but that would not be a high value woman to a man. Make sense? I think self-respect and taking care of yourself is high value. Kindness is high value. Being encouraging and supportive is high value. Being intelligent is high value. Being creative is high value. So again, there are so many different traits and characteristics that people might be looking for in a person. Loyalty is high value. Again, encouraging and supportive and kind. Those are all high value traits that a lot of people are looking for. Funny could be high value to some people. So again, it really comes down to the individual. But really, this idea that, you know, if you're a woman who makes a ton of money, you're very financially successful, I don't know, you are good in the bedroom, you sleep with a lot of guys. Like, a lot of the time, that's not something that a lot of men consider to be a high value thing. Now, everyone is different. There could be men out there who don't care about that at all, or they would totally marry you if you're like that. It really just depends on the individual. But the reason I wanted to make this video is just because I think a lot of times men and women don't understand what the opposite sex is looking for. I think, you know, women are looking for someone who is financially independent, who can take care of himself and maybe a future family, who is kind and loyal and funny and a good partner. And I think men are looking for someone who is kind and encouraging and supportive and takes care of herself, and whatever. And I think understanding what the opposite sex is looking for is helpful if you're in the dating market and you're single, obviously, because I think a lot of women think just because they're financially successful and they sleep with a ton of people that makes them, wife material or wifey material. And maybe to some it is, but to a lot of people it's not. And then they say things like, well, all men suck, or where are all the good men? Well, you're not really choosing the good ones because you're not really being someone that the good ones would want to be with. And I really don't say that to be, again, sexist or hurtful. I would say the same thing about men who claim that they're so high value when they aren't making any money. They're not working. They're not trying to work. They don't take care of themselves physically, mentally, or emotionally. And they talk crap about women all the time and are horrible to women, and then wonder why they have no success with women. Well, I can tell you why. Because you're not being someone that the person you want to be with would want to be with. And I think it really does come down to being what you want to attract. And, if you're going to have this unrealistic checklist for the person that you want to be with, you better have the same dang checklist for yourself. If you're going to have all these crazy standards, you better hold yourself to those standards too, if you want to be with that person. And you want that person to want to be with you. And we're allowed to have our preferences. If you're a guy who wants to be with a feminine, kind, encouraging, supportive, nurturing woman, that's fine. There is nothing misogynistic about that. And if you're a woman who wants to be with a guy who is masculine and, financially independent and loyal, there's nothing wrong with that. You're allowed to want that. I think it's really just about being realistic about what you're looking for and where you kind of line up with that. And genuinely being what you want to attract. And understanding that if you want this certain person, you're thinking about your dream person in your head, would they want to be with you? And if not, what can you do to be, a better you? Or be someone that they would want to be with? Now, I'm not saying to completely change yourself or to be something that you're not, but you got to put in a little bit of effort, right? Men and women included. Women aren't entitled to the best man out there just because they make money. Or just because they sleep with people. So really, the high value topic it's not black and white. I don't think it's black and white, again, because we're all looking for different things. What I consider to be a high value man, another woman might not. I think that being loyal is high value. And some might argue, if a man just makes a lot of money, then he's high value. So understanding that it really does come down to an individual level for certain things. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. There's someone out there that will like you. And another thing I want to point out is that a lot of the time when I'm on social media, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, all these women are talking about what they want in a guy, right? They want a guy who's 6 feet, who makes over 6 figures, who is funny, who dresses awesome, who is just the bee's knees. But then when a man says his preferences, he's like the worst person ever. So I also just want to say that you're allowed to have preferences on what you want in a person. But I think being realistic about your standards and preferences is also important. And understand that preferences and standards are different things. Sometimes you have to make a little bit of a compromise. If there are only 2% of men between the ages of 20 and 40 who are over 6 feet making more than 6 figures, you might have to date someone who's 5'8", okay? Or you might have to date someone who's making 40K. It's a give and take, right? You can't have it all. And that's another thing too, is just this unrealistic idea that we all are entitled to exactly what we want. The statistics speak for themselves. I don't think I need to say anything else. But anyway, I'm just ranting about the whole dating climate at this point, so maybe I'll make a different video talking about different things so that I'm not just blabbering on and you guys can follow what I'm saying. So let me know what you guys think down below. What are some traits that you look for in a woman if you're a man watching? If you're a woman watching, what are traits that you look for in a man? What would you consider to be high value? Again, I really try to look at this in a balanced way, but I think sometimes it can be difficult when we put labels on things, right? We always want to label things. We always want to cling to a label or a category or put ourselves in a box. And sometimes it's just really not that black and white. Like, there are sometimes gray areas. But just understand that, what you consider to be high value doesn't have to be what Joe Schmo down the street considers high value. You can have your preferences and standards, but be realistic about it, right? So yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments. Share your opinions. If you liked this video or found it helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to be in the loop for when I release new content. If you haven't already, be sure to follow me over on Instagram at Courtney Christine Ryan. I love connecting with all of you guys over on there as well. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.